Hello everyone, welcome back to Fieldstories. My name's Nick Smith. I'm joined with Michaela Corey, who I'm saying it confidently this time, and Chris Pitola, who's in another location again this time. So where are you, Chris? What are we doing there?
Yeah, the European tour continues. I'm at the base of the Austrian Alps here in beautiful Innsbruck, Austria. Had a nice day of hiking, living a life that I'm way too poor to live. Each individual ski that I'm walking by is probably worth more than all the clothing on my body. So so basically, but it's beautiful, amazing place. This is just a few days of fun, I have to admit, and then I'm back to Peru. Later this week, and back into the field in a couple weeks. So pretty soon you'll be seeing me looking miserable, disgusting, and sweaty back in Peru. So where are you? You guys have lived, sounds beautiful, right? You guys are in your standard locations. Nixon is.
I'm on Groundhog Day. I've been doing the same day
it's
for
like
8 weeks.
Yeah, you're just an AI at this point.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what's going on at this point. I'm desperate to get away. Desperate.
Yeah, you're just in the same.
I'm thinking about booking
low quality internet cave, and that can we get new drapes someday? Could we get some new drapes?
I'm moving out in 2 months. So I can't do. No point.
Maybe just get a photo and hang it up behind you, because it's like
on the
most depressing.
Yeah, have something cute like my background with all the books and plants.
Yeah, and the
it
cat.
just doesn't. If you saw my room, it doesn't.
The stool, but I never see a cat, Michaela. Where's? You need to bring the
She's
cat.
She's sleeping right now.
Well, not now, but one day we need to have the cat. No,
she's right here.
All right, go. There you go. Make it fast. Here we go. We have a bonus guest on today's show. In fact, you know what, everyone? This is our guest. We're sorry to tell you that this is the guest because we couldn't find a guest, and now we have the cat. What's his or her name?
Her name's Willow. She usually is very talkative, but I woke her up from her slumber.
So, she lives drowsy.
Today's guest is Willow, and we're going to talk about outdoor versus indoor cats. No, okay, I was just kidding.
Absolutely. She's an indoor cat. She's afraid of anything with fur, loves humans, and normally pretty chatty, but I think she's pretty peeved off.
Imagine the comments on that if we did an episode about that.
Yeah, we should.
Oh, that would spark some great conversation.
We should, actually, yeah.
Oh, God. That would cause some
We need to work on our controversies.
Yeah. That's the only way we're going to go viral, We got to say something edgy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so as much as it would be fun to talk to Willow today, we actually do have a really cool guest. Dick Locke is a herpetologist and guide who owns his own herping tour and wildlife tour company in Suriname, and also has founded a snake rescue and education organization there as well. He's really known him now for. Well, I guess I've known him for a few years and been talking to him recently about potentially even going out there and doing some research with him and his organization. And we're really fortunate to have him join us this week so we can talk about all of his time in Suriname and the work he's been doing out there. All right, so we have Dick Locke with us today. Thanks a lot for joining us, Dick. Just going to give you a quick little brief introduction. And these are always kind of annoying, these parts, but it's good to give everybody a bit of a background on you. So Dick came to Suriname, for those of you who know where that is, Michaela. Came to Suriname for the first time in 2011 when she was 18. He was 18, I should say. And should we start that again?
Yeah. With Michaela dropping the microphone as well.
Sliding off.
Oh my God! I told you I was tired, guys. I'm sorry. Maybe this intro part was not the best idea.
I mean, we already have the intro technically. Dick can just start talking.
Yeah, right? We could just go in from a question.
Is that going to look okay in the edit, Nick?
I think we should post bloopers on Instagram.
I can do something where you just fade to black and it should be okay. And
I can try one more time and make it quick. Fuck, let's just give it. In worst case, we just edit and cut it. Who cares?
Okay.
All right.
Thanks for being patient, Dick.
Yeah.
No
worries. Oh God.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go again. And are you frozen, Dick, or are you there still?
He's there.
You're okay on.
Here we go. Third time's a charm. All right. Thanks for joining us, Dick. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. I know you're super busy, so really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. So just a quick background on you from what you've sent us. Dick Locke works in Suriname, and he's been there now since 2017. He actually first came to the country in 2011 as part of it as well, at first for recreation and then as part of his studies. He's been there since 2017, and he's got a number of organizations that he has founded and manages, including two different wildlife adventure and tour companies. One of them is Herping Suriname, the other one is Unlock Nature. He also is the owner of Zootopia Resort, which is actually relatively new, as you were telling us earlier, Dick. And then also he's the founder of a really interesting organization, which is Snake Patrol Suriname, which has approximately 30 volunteers right now that are actually dedicated to helping save snakes when they come into encounters with humans. So that's really, really interesting. I'd like to hear more about that as we get to it. So again, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Really appreciate it. Normally guests at this point, we just ask you to just talk a little bit about whatever you want, about yourself, about your background, about what you're doing, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. About me is, I've always been a wildlife enthusiast. So I always wanted to go to the most biodiverse region on the planet. And this is supposed to be the Amazon, right? But for me, as an 18-year-old boy, it's not really easy to go to new places, and especially if you're talking about languages. And for me, it was really easy because Suriname is supposed to be, or what used to be a Dutch colony. So everybody still speaks Dutch here. Well, not everybody, but most of the people still speak Dutch here. So it's relatively easy to go here. And the first time when I was here, I was actually not planning to come back after that. I mean, I had a great time, but the world is so big and I wanted to see other spots as well. So I sort of ticked it off and I wanted to go somewhere else. But during my study, I did an internship that I planned in Brazil, but somehow didn't pull through and I needed something last minute to go somewhere else. I got contacts in Suriname, so I might as well just go back to Suriname. Eventually, my final thesis, I couldn't do my final thesis in a foreign country unless I would go to a country where I already had experience. So I went back to Suriname. So were the things every time I went back to Suriname. And once I finally finished my study, I was like, you know what? I could stay in the Netherlands, do a job that I make money with, but actually don't like as much. Or I just leave now and I do something that I really, really like and, make a little less money, but at least enjoy it. So 2017, I started living here. And Suriname as being the greenest country on the planet with 93% forest and very little inhabitants, like a little over 500,000 people. There's just so much to do. There's so many gaps in the markets, especially regarding tourism. You just want to, there's so much to discover here. There's just a few lodges, but if you like camping, if you like wild camping, Suriname is your playground. You can go anywhere. And Suriname, therefore, is really addictive for me. So every time I wanted to discover new places and bring people to other spots. And in the beginning, it was mainly herb focused. 2 reasons, like it's my main interest. Second reason was also it was like a niche market that was kind of free in Suriname. Nobody would bring people to see snakes. No, snakes are dangerous and scary. So I started doing that. But after a while, I got a lot of requests from people. They were like, I want to see different animals as well. Could you bring us to see cats, or could you bring us to see certain kind of monkeys? Or like, yeah, obviously I can. So that's when I started doing other tours as well. And eventually now, about 2 years ago, we also started doing expeditions. So the expeditions could be either a helicopter dropping in the middle of nowhere with inflatable kayaks and pedal back to civilization. I mean, wow. if you'd be able to do something like that, it's so incredibly cool. And I was talking to Nick earlier as well about, he told me, like, you see a lot of mammals, right? But that really depends on the places you go to. So, for example, these last kayak expeditions, you just come in places where the animals have never seen humans before. I mean, if you go to Pantanal and there's jaguars and capybaras alongside the river, they sit there because they're kind of used to the boats. But here you have, well, my last expedition, for example, I had 2 capybaras on the side of the riverbank, and both didn't know what to do. Like one got out of there, the other one came up to us. You know,
Amazing.
Tapirs just stand like not a half a meter from your kayak and just looking at you like, what are you? A log or weird thing by?
Oh, that's so good.
So that makes Suriname really, really addictive. No, you also asked about snake patrol, right?
Yeah, that was the first question I was going to ask you was about that, because I'm super interested. You know, I think I know what inspired you, but I'm super curious what that involves and what your feedback on that has been so far.
Yeah, so when I started off doing herping tours, you quickly get this label like the snake guy. You know, this is a guy that handles snakes. So when you got a snake, you can call him. So after a while, people started calling me, but obviously I was in the jungle quite often, so I wasn't always reachable. And you know, I worked with, for example, the fire department that came and picked me up sometimes, or they called me up. You know, we got a call here. Can you do it? So I had some collaborations, but at one point I met now a colleague of mine, Fenna, and she had the same ideas. We spoke, and she was like, "Dick, we basically need like a team that could do this, you know, like a patrol team." I'm like, "I know, but no, I don't have the time for that. I want to, but I don't have the time. I mean, I'm doing so much already, but I do have the network." And she was the other way around. She was like, "I don't have the network, but I got the time. You know, maybe we can do something." And we started off with a small team, about 5-6 volunteers, and now 3.5 years later, we grew up to 30 volunteers.
Wow. Awesome.
We do snake calls. So sometimes it's depending on the rainy season or the dry season. Sometimes it's up to 5 calls a day, 5-6 calls a day. And it's just one city, so that's kind of nuts.
Right. Yeah.
And but the last.
Like Oh, sorry, I didn't interrupt you. So what type of I guess what's an average call like? Like what type of species? What type of encounter? What type is it in somebody's farm? Is it in somebody's house? Like, I know it's all different. I'm sure you've had all sorts of. That's a whole other set of crazy stories. But like, what is kind of typical for you guys to see?
Most typical is like, I think 75% of our calls are boa constrictors.
I hate you. Just to make it clear, I hate you for that. But
honestly, same.
They're impossible to see in primary forest in Madre de Dios, Peru. So I've seen one, and it was in a farm in 6 years. So, anyways, continue.
Yeah, exactly. With us too, like tours in the jungle, we maybe see 2 or 3 a year, and then in the city, sometimes I see 5 a day. So that's kind of crazy. So that's most of the calls, and then most of the situations are usually farms. What you say, like people that have chicken.
Yeah.
But also when people, for example, have ducks. But when you got ducks, it's mostly anacondas that come, because it's usually alongside the water somewhere. So we get anacondas quite often. We get boa constrictors quite often, and then we have animals like chicken snakes, fertilans, and then a whole variety of ones that you see once every few months. But this is like most of the species. Some of the Caronia species, the keelback snakes.
Yeah.
Cool.
Wow. I have a question after this, but do you do any educational outreach while you were, retrieving these snakes from, people's properties? Especially, I feel that, as you said before, there's such a stigma with snakes. And as a herper myself, I love snakes, but it's really difficult to educate people who want to kill them right when they see them, So do you do any education while you're, doing this awesome business, I guess?
Yeah, we try to make every moment as educational as possible. So from doing the call itself and visiting people, and then usually I try to involve them in the catch, and most of all I try to let the snake be. I understand it's here, I understand you want to get rid of it, but it's actually because you got your garbage here and there's rats and mice, and he's actually cleaning it up. So
he's kind of doing his job.
Sometimes I have people on the phone. I'm like, but are you actually scared? It's like, no, I just don't know what it is, if it's dangerous. Well, it's just a regular water snake. It's not dangerous. I mean,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
no,
Mm.
it could be. You could just leave them be.
Little neurodia.
So that's one part of the educational part. But also
Yeah.
when we catch it, I mean, we clean them up a little bit, get the ticks off, and then
Oh
release it
yeah.
back again. Usually, we combine that with tourism. As I'm also doing tourism, it's really easy to bring people along and make that an educational part for the tourists as
Yeah,
well.
that's nice.
Yeah.
We did
Oh,
see,
that's
however, that a lot of the people call for snakes that are basically harmless. So we tend to focus more on education now. So we have a lot of workshops, kids workshops, adult workshops. We give professional snake handling trainings to, for example, gold mines, oil companies, military, because
oh,
they
that's
come in
great.
contact with these animals on a regular basis. And yeah, if they decide to kill all the animals on site, that's a lot of snakes that are going to be killed. So
Yeah, of
most
course.
of the gold mines and the oil companies, they now want regular trainings from us like every year. So that's a really good step.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so we were joking before before we started recording that you're going to have to control yourself with the stories. I'm going to give you an opportunity to sneak one extra one in because there has to be a really crazy story around snake patrolling and handling or something along that line. I'll give you the opportunity to have one extra one.
Man, so this is a hard thing, right? Because I was discussing with my colleague, like they want me to tell a story, but I don't know where to start. And if once you start talking, there's a million stories that pop up. But once
They
somebody
all
asks,
trickle
like, "Can you
down.
tell me a story?" You're like, blank,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I get that. We can
Yeah.
always.
Oh,
What do you
for
think
sure.
well, let's put this. Maybe is there one crazy snake that you helped rescue or you heard about was like, I don't know, trying to eat somebody's dog
Reoccurring offender.
or maybe
Yeah.
somebody called you for a snake and it turned out to be like a rubber hose or something like that.
Yeah, something funny like that. That's good.
True,
that is
true.
basically last month.
Yeah. Okay.
There was one that
Yeah.
just had the curtains were moving.
Oh wow.
Oh
We had
no.
two people that visited the place, and there was no
Oh,
snake at all. So
no.
So it was a ghost,
we were wondering
basically.
if
Yeah.
it was,
Okay.
Oh dear, it's not.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
That's
also
funny.
like a dog, a snake trying to eat somebody's dog. That's once had it. That was I think 2 years ago in December. Like the rainy season just started, and we had a lot of floodings, and we had two of those calls in 2 days.
Hmm.
But the stupid thing is you're always too late. When something like that happens,
Oh,
you come into the
yeah.
area, the snake is either gone or it's dead. Like most of the times, they already kill it.
Yeah.
Mm,
No.
yeah, of course. Oh, that's,
For
That's
example,
hard.
too, like the when I usually speak to people, I ask them keep an eye on the snake so it doesn't go away. And
Hmm.
then some people take that the wrong way. So you enter at the property, and there's a what's it called? A hay fork? A hay what's it called?
oh yeah,
The
like a
big shovel
pitchfork.
with three.
Pit,
Oh,
yeah,
pitchfork.
Oh,
pitchfork or
pitchfork. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Pitchfork.
pitchfork.
They put a
Yeah,
Yeah.
pitchfork like right through the anaconda. It's like, yeah, so it doesn't go anywhere, right?
Oh,
Like,
what? That's horrible.
no.
Yeah.
for
No.
somebody that parks his car on a snake and he's like, yeah, so it couldn't go anywhere, so now you can take it. I'm like, yeah, but you broke basically every bone in his body. I mean,
Oh, that's
Oh, that makes
terrible.
my stomach sick.
Yeah, that's
I
actually
hate that.
terrible. Oh,
I guess that's just
so
why you have
because
to
we
work
think they're
harder
super
on
strong.
education, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
God damn it.
yeah.
So Dick, as a fellow herper too, I know a lot of herpers who are either, scientists or just hobbyist herpers. And then one thing we really deal with, a problem we deal with is poaching. And so I was curious about, the guests that you take on your tours. Do you ever worry about poaching? What is your normal clientele, I guess, who are interested, especially because not a lot of people are interested in
Mm.
herps. I mean, I am. I'll go on this tour anytime. But, I was curious about, do you ever worry about poaching? Are you kind of picky with who you take on these tours? Or, just kind of the generalist of who comes with you?
Suriname is kind of a hard country to do something on your own. So either I could bring people to a place and they're like, oh, I want to come back here to poach some of the animals here. It's still kind of hard, and I get to know about it. The world here is so small, like everybody knows everybody. So
Right.
if there's something weird going on like that, I don't think that would happen easily. So never
Sure.
during my tours I ever had a problem with that. There
Hmm.
is a lot of wildlife export in Suriname. So it's actually one of the largest wildlife exporting countries, and also mainly for snakes, like emerald tree boas are going
Yeah.
bunches
Right.
of them. So that's the big
Mm.
difference when I see also when I go to a really remote area where nobody comes, suddenly emeralds are almost common.
Yeah.
That's
Mm.
crazy. It's a
Okay.
big difference.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
usually
Right.
during the tours, I don't have to worry about poaching, at least not for my guests.
That's
Okay. Are
good.
your guests mostly local, or do you have a lot of, foreign, out of the country, or is it just a lot of people in the
Barely
area?
locals. Like Surinamese
Mostly
people do not
locals.
like snakes.
Yeah.
No.
No, they would not come. No, no.
No.
So it's mostly people from all over the world.
Okay.
Suriname is really focused on the Netherlands. So we basically tend to do everything in English because we want to reach out to other countries as well and make
Right.
Suriname a little bit more known to the rest of the world. But we got a lot of people from all over the world actually now.
Oh, that's
That's
neat.
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously with regards to the tours, it's sort of your main activities, your main focus right now. And I mean, generally speaking, I think all of us agree that when ecotourism, is done the right way, it has a lot of values to it. But of course, it sometimes if it's done the wrong way, we've seen, especially in some regions. We had our guest last week talking about Asia and some of the issues with orangutans and zoos in Asia. I guess from your point of view, I mean, what do you see as sort of the really upside, the positive value of ecotourism? And then I guess for you, what's the downside? What's the side that you would sort of push away from and make sure you're not encouraging? Just from your perspective, someone who's founded your own business, your own operation from the ground up, and what do you what yeah like what do you see as the upside and what do you see as the downside with it?
Mm, the upside is obviously the development for here. Like people in
Okay.
Suriname are really minded on logging, mining, see it as the only way of income. Uh,
Hmm.
but with 93% forest and 500,000 inhabitants, I mean, we don't need much.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much that we could do. Like if we set up a few good lodges and get quality tours going on, the whole country could run in tourism easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is definitely the top side, like the possibilities of it here, especially.
Mm.
Yeah.
Uh, the downside, um, it is sometimes hard to properly arrange things here. Um, for example, most people are like, this tour works, somebody else does it, it works, I'm gonna do it too.
Hmm.
And there's not a lot of people who are willing to discover new places and set up new tours. And that's what we are doing now. So we got some of the new location, but what we see now is a lot of people go to the same spots now. They're following our footsteps in that. But really, we are really careful with the wildlife. So we know these animals. You don't want to handle these animals. You want to stay this distance off. You don't want to play their sounds, and that way we can keep a quality of a tour up. But when other tour operators are going and they
Hmm.
tend to know the same locations eventually, but they're not
Yeah.
keeping the same um, rules that we do, you could see that some of the animals are disappearing. So that's it needs to be done properly and being
Right.
properly managed.
That's a difficult thing to
Yeah.
balance for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it definitely
yeah.
is. Dick, I was just going to ask. I don't know a whole lot about Suriname. Is there like national parks? Is it like a reserve? Is it all sort of like what part of it's managed as such, or owned? Is it public? Could you like give an insight on basically how that would work? So when people are doing their tours, is there like regulations? How is that working? I don't know if you could shed some light on that, please.
There's rules, um, but the um, there's not a lot of. I'm looking for the English word. Um,
Enforcement.
Enforcement. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah, I
Yeah.
see, I see.
Yeah, we do
Yeah,
have a
that's
lot of
tough.
parks actually. We have one nature park. I think we have about
Hmm.
12 nature reserves. And one of them is the Central Suriname Nature Reserve, which used to be the largest nature reserve on the planet, which is actually a
Wow.
big
Wow.
portion of the
Wow.
country.
Yeah.
Wow.
However, there is now logging, there's poaching, there's, you know, so that's a bit of a challenge now.
Yeah.
But also, like the people that are supposed to enforce that, they're really limited. They don't have much gear that they get from the government. Not a lot of support. It's a very little group that has to do it. So that is a bit of a challenge. And
Yeah.
all the nature parks and everything in nature reserves still derive from back in the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like a really interesting location, really interesting country. I know you and me have spoken about potential of maybe even Fauna Forever coming out there in the new year, and we'll certainly have some more chats and messages and meetings about that. But and you've already stolen one of our coordinators, Marcos. So yeah, that
that.
sounds like a great place. And personally, I think probably speak for all three of us that we'd love to go there at some point.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, if you have any open positions, I
yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
I'll go over there.
I'm there. I'm there.
Please do to the
I'm just
best.
We
saying, I
do,
got a
we
good
do
background in
actually.
herb stick. Send, listen, DM me. I got this.
So yeah, we're all very sold on Suriname. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And yeah, we probably could go on for a lot of different stories. As we were texting before this episode, there's a lot of stories you can pick from. But yeah, I think it's time to go ahead and give us, one of them at least. And you mentioned something about your time during the pandemic, and we all probably have. It's probably not good stories during that period, but maybe your story is a little more interesting than some of ours. So go for it.
Thanks. Yeah, yeah. So it is a challenge to pick a proper story. So I have some crazy stories, I have exciting stories, but I wanted to go for this one, which is a little bit more of an overall experience story. Um, so we were starting up a monkey project. I'm gonna start up from the very beginning with this one. Um, Talking about enforcement, when people have a monkey at home, a spider monkey, for example, which is illegal to hold, somebody from the nature department comes and you're not allowed to, but they can't actually take it because they can't bring it anywhere.
Hmm.
There's no places where you could bring it here. There's no rehabilitation centers or anything. So eventually they all ended up in the zoo, and the zoo is not in a great state, but it does its very best. But
Hmm.
at some point, the coordinator at the zoo said, I can't just take it anymore. I mean, I got 30 spider monkeys, and it's got to stop at one point. So we had one spider monkey that was ravaging a village, Nikiri, and we decided to call the spider monkey Nikki, and she was just pulling televisions off the wall in the city, and we managed to capture her, but the coordinator at the zoo said, no, no, we're full. We can't do it. So you got to bring her somewhere else. So we needed to come up with something. That was like us is a group of two primatologists, wildlife veterinarian, me, and then the coordinator from the zoo. So there was a few people that came together and wanted to set something up. But you know what? We get this monkey where we bring it to the forest, and then she's probably not going to survive, but we're going to make this a whole media hype. So at least we can reach people for this. But then the coordinator of the zoo said, you know what? I got four more monkeys that you could bring.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
We're like, yeah, okay, I'm not going to give five monkeys a death sentence. So we got to come up with something bigger then. So we decided to make a reintroduction project of it. Decided to get some money, decided to make a whole framework for it. I wanted to do at Fredberg. Fredberg is an area, translates to Fred Mountain, and it's from a friend of mine, Fred. Doesn't have to be harder than that. And is his area is a really nice and actually reachable area. And I was discussing with him, can we build a cage here where we can do a soft release? So we want to put the monkeys in it, and then We know we're going to leave them in the cage for a couple of months so they can get used to the area. Once we set them free, we still feed them little bits on top of the cage so they can get to know the surroundings and still have a place they can go back to. So the whole system was set. But we needed some kind of income source. So, me working in tourism, Fred working in tourism, like, you know what? Every person that goes to this area, $2 or $3, I think, from every tour, from every person, will go to this project. And every bus that comes in, we can send fruit and stuff. We can send everything with. The researchers, they can come and go with the buses, So the whole system was completely set. We built the cage. We set the monkeys there. And 2 days later, we get this message. So somebody was helping us with the cage. And somebody came out from the city. And there's no reception out there. And they told us, like, do you know, like tomorrow the last plane is going. The last plane is departing to the Netherlands. I'm like, what? So the whole COVID thing suddenly hit, and then everybody had to leave the country. And so I had a friend of mine who was actually visiting me, and I had to drive her back to the city because she needed to be on the very last plane. And now suddenly we have these monkeys in a cage. We have no researchers anymore. We have no income source. We have nothing. Like the whole project is suddenly like empty. And we, like, for me also, there was no income source anymore for me. So I was like, okay, you know what? If there's no tourism for me, I can go to the monkeys. 1-on-1 is 2. Maybe, just like with other diseases, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 months. I'll stay in the jungle for a month or two, and it'll be all right. Ended up being 6 months. And in these 6 months, the Fredberg base camp was basically my house. But, I was just living there mostly on my own. The first month, I had 2 other researchers that were joining me. And the last month, I had 3 other people that were helping me. But the 4 months in between, I was mostly alone.
Wow.
So for me, there was a really life-changing experience. In my daily life, I work with people all the time. And now suddenly you have all the time in the world. The only thing you need to do is bring food to the monkeys and observe them. So on a daily basis, I would go at like 5:30, 6 in the morning. I take the mountain bike. I bike 8 kilometers to watch the monkeys with 10 kilos of food on my back for the monkeys. With my dog. My dog was there too. And with my dog next to the bike. And then the 2 of us went to the monkeys, fed the monkeys, observed them. After observing them, I would go to the jungle, forage some of the wild fruits. And then the wild fruits I would bring back to the monkeys and try and look up if it was edible for them or not. So I had this book, and I was trying to look up through all the fruits and everything that was there and see if spider monkeys would eat it or not. Okay, it says yes. I give it to the monkey. He doesn't want it.
Wow.
Eventually, I take say like small bits, and they just get the inside out, eat the inside instead of the outside. So at one point, I was like, this book is madness. It doesn't work. But it looks like the monkeys already know what to eat. So instead of me figuring out everything they could eat, I would just give it to them, and they would eat it or not. So eventually, it was the other way around. Instead of me teaching them what they could eat, they were teaching me what I could eat.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
In the last,
That's really interesting.
after 3-4 months, we set them free, and I needed to follow them on a daily basis, like every morning. Every morning, I would go there to their sleeping tree and follow them until their sleeping tree again. So like the whole day. And even then, they would drop some of the fruits, and you would see fruits that you've never seen before, but not know if it was edible or not. But I mean, they're eating it, so it's good. So you discover a lot more on the forest than you would eventually, like at first you would think, because the monkeys already know what to eat.
Right.
There was only one place where I would have reception. So there's one rock, I call it my office rock. So after observing the monkeys, I go to my office.
Amazing.
sit there,
My
and then
office.
get my contact with my family, try out some new tours, work everything out. So that was my office rock. So the whole life in the jungle suddenly was so much more um, different than I had at first. In the beginning, it was people were coming there almost every weekend. So every weekend, people would bring me at least some food. And for them, like total lockdown in Suriname was like total lockdown. You were not allowed to go on the streets, just
Right.
to do groceries based on the first letter of your last name. So you would, for example, be allowed to, one person out of the house would be allowed to go out to go do groceries on, for example, Tuesday and Friday. That's
Wow.
it.
Wow.
So I had the most freedom that I have ever
Wow.
experienced, and everybody else had the least freedom they ever experienced.
That's
But for
crazy.
them to be allowed to bring me food during the weekends was their way, of escaping. So for me, just
Right.
eating the fish from the river every day, and then in the weekend it was like this meal of kings, because they always wanted to bring their best. So they brought
Aw.
like wine and like good food, and every weekend it was crazy. Up to
Yeah.
one point where nobody was allowed into the interior anymore. So they didn't want to exchange the COVID to the people that lived in the interior. But I kind of depended on people visiting me because
Mm.
they needed to bring me food. So at one point, I was like, yeah, sorry, Dick, we can't come anymore. We're not allowed to. So then suddenly for 3 weeks, nobody visited me and nobody was able to bring any food. Um, so now you're suddenly, I had my stock of like canned food. So I was kind of all right, but it was kind of crazy that nobody was allowed to come anymore. And eventually, after 3 weeks, they just printed a whole bunch of files that they needed, and all these files, nothing was signed. But I mean, if you get at the checkpoint and they're like, "Yeah, I got it here," I'm allowed to, and they just get the whole bunch of files. Like nobody's gonna read it at the checkpoint. They're like, "Yeah, I'll probably be all right," you can go
That's
now.
perfect.
So after 3 weeks, they basically bluffed their way through and visited me and were able to bring me food again. So that was good.
Wow.
so
Yeah, so
so
it's
what
more of
happened
an
with the monkeys? I guess that's the question that we all have. What happened with monkeys?
yeah. That's the next step. Um, at first, we had we had 5 monkeys. Um, we set them free, and then you're very curious what's going to happen to the monkeys at first. What they're going to do? You can't predict anything. The two dominant ones, the dominant male and the dominant female, they just went out of there. The highest tree, we never seen them again. The other three monkeys um, stayed a little bit more near the cage. So there were two young females of about 4 years, and there was a young female of about 2 years. It's basically like a puberty.
Hmm.
Um, the other ones were a lot older, but we only had three GPS collars. So you have 5 monkeys, but three collars. You know which one you're gonna take. So obviously the alphas we would give some of the collars,
Hmm.
but then we have three other monkeys. But two of them were like besties. They never left each other. So like okay, just one of them.
Aw.
The other one is a kid, so it will probably stick to either the alpha or the two ladies. So we gave one of the two ladies a collar, and then the two alphas we gave a collar. Within, I think it was 7 days, we got our first mortality fix. And a mortality fix is basically that the collar is laying still for more than 10 hours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I packed
Yeah.
my stuff to go for about 3 or 4 days and went to the location where it was. But we actually found her in I think 4 or 5 hours already, or him basically was the only male. Um, took him back, did a dissection, and apparently he broke all his toes and he had an empty intestine. So he did not eat. He broke his fingers. It's like he had a
Wow.
horrible,
God.
horrible week.
Yeah. Well,
Oh my
Um,
wow.
gosh.
the alpha female we found 2 weeks later, but it was only bones in a collar. We have no clue
Wow.
what happened.
Ooh.
Then the three ladies did amazing for about 2 years. No, one of them, the youngest one, she disappeared the same day that I stopped the project. So we set them free, and then after continuous observations, we would send people in for maybe a week, a month, or a few days. So not continuous anymore. And the moment I left the jungle for after the 6 months, that was the same day that she disappeared. But we don't know what happened. I mean, she didn't have a collar. She never came back. We don't. I
Right.
observed the wild monkeys around there. She was not integrated in the groups, so we weren't super sure what happened. But I mean, most likely she died, got either taken by a harpy eagle or fell out of a tree.
Mm.
The other two monkeys did amazing for 2.5 years, and I was at the point I was like, I'm just gonna say my goodbyes because their territory is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and now they're just doing well. I don't need to feed them anymore. So my very last visit that I was gonna bring them, I enter the area, and through the middle of their territory, there's a skidder, a trail. And a skidder is the machine that's used to get tree trunks out of the forest. So that meant illegal logging. And it was like right through the middle of their territory. Yeah, and now, so what's going on? So I tried to call the nature department. I was only supposed to go for a day or two maybe. I called the nature department. They were sending somebody over. Eventually, I slept for 10 days near the logs because I didn't want them to take the logs. I'm like, this is the point where we could catch him on, if we let them take the logs and they're out of there, there's no way that we can catch him, no way that we know who they are or whatever. So I slept for 10 days near the logs. I got a bunch of other people that wanted to help me out because it could actually potentially get a little dangerous out there.
Yeah.
Right.
After 10 days, the nature department comes over and they were like, no, you can't do that anymore. And that's it.
What?
They did not get a fine. They were not caught. I was like, why was I sleeping here for 10 days so we could get these people? And the only thing is like, no, you can't do that anymore.
Just get a slap on
Like
the wrist.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's absurd.
So the two ladies were still in the area, but like the same week, one of them, that's the one with the collar, disappeared. And she disappeared 50 meters away from the illegal logging camp. And the legal loggers also hunt a lot. So I was kind of sure that the collar wasn't even working anymore. Even the radio tracking wasn't working, GPS wasn't working. So it's not just, it's broken somehow.
Right.
So there was a bit like a 1 and 1 is 2. They probably killed her. The last one I've still seen a month after that, but I saw her really getting skinny and not doing so well. I mean, they're group animals too, they kind of need each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of crazy because if you spend 2.5 years for 5 monkeys like that, and especially the 6 months that I spent with them in the beginning, they're kind of like your kids, Even with them climbing around, I can literally hear the individual. I know this is Maka because she always climbs very sloppy. Just not even like when I started this, for me, a spider monkey was a spider monkey, just a black monkey with a red face.
Mm-hmm.
But now when I see spider monkeys, I'm like, hey, I don't know you yet. Who are you? It's like
Right.
it's like individual patterns and builds and faces.
It's so devastating.
It is. Yeah. It was for me a life-changing experience to be able to have such a close experience with the monkeys, as well as I've always been more herb focused, and this was a completely new thing.
Yeah, I mean that's a really interesting story for a lot of reasons, but I guess for me also one of the things that pops into my head is that it just shows you how difficult it is to release animals back into the wild after they've been taken in, into the pet trade or something. And I guess it's also why we just have to do our best to try to protect as much natural habitat and animals in the wild as we can, right? It's like, because it's not that easy to let them go again. But I mean, you and all your people, considering the circumstances of the pandemic and everything, you guys did a great job. And it's just really difficult to release, especially primates, back into the wild. I think all animals, but primates are particularly known to be hard. So, yeah, that's a really good, really amazing story, Dick. I really
incredible
appreciate
story.
you sharing that with us. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, again, I think we could probably hear lots of you could probably now do 8 minutes on a crazy story would have us all laughing, but that's the way it is, right? That's life down there. We should probably have to wrap it up because of the time, but yeah, it's been great having you on. Like I said when we were talking earlier, I have a feeling that we'll probably have you on again on the show, and maybe even at some point we can have you on in sort of in the field interview with one of us, two of us, three of us, with you. We'll see. So we'll definitely have to make that happen someday. Maybe we'll have a team up
Group
episode.
trip down there.
Well, if we do that episode, then Marcos can make a guest appearance, bringing in like an iced tea or a beer, and then leave again. That's very inside joke, but I think probably most of our viewers at this point would know who Marcos is, so it's okay to make that.
Yeah, definitely. That's straight.
Anyways, thank you so much, Dick. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we'll end it here, but we'll be in contact again. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting chat. Thank you. That's great.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Nice meeting you. Nice talking to you.
Nice meeting you too.
All right. Well, that was awesome. It was really interesting having him, Dick, on. And I mean, for me, like the thing that was really interesting about it was to hear someone whose primary background and interest is herpetology and herping, and really sort of founded his tour operation around herping. But for him to really become so invested in those spider monkeys, I think it's a really interesting story. And I think it shows you that most people who are interested in one particular taxa, in the end, they're just really interested in nature and animals and wildlife. And if you get the chance to interact with another taxa, usually you fall in love with that to some extent as well. I've seen that firsthand myself, and that's why I don't only do herps and don't only do birds and don't only do bats, and why I sometimes wish I could do primates and other large mammals, because pretty much every group of wildlife is amazing once you get the chance to understand it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I relate with that. I started out in fisheries. I was going to go into marine biology, and then I transitioned to freshwater, and somehow I landed into herps as well. And so I think that when you have a love for wildlife, you have a myriad of interests, and it's really hard to kind of pick one specific one. Although I can't do entomology. It's just not for me. I can't. I'm sorry to the entomologist. It's a no-go. But I think what really was astounding is that COVID was such a hard time for all of us. And he really took advantage of that time where, isolation, especially in the jungle, that's a scary event. And especially when there's a huge disease roaming around or virus, and, you just don't know what's going on. And he really took advantage in the most sentimental way. What?
There's no information. There's nothing obviously, we're all hearing about what the potentials are and things. There's nothing and apart from his office, there was rarely anything he could get.
His office, his rock.
I love that part.
I know, me too. But yeah.
Yeah, for me, it rang a bell because when the first 2 months of the pandemic, we were still in the field in Peru, and then the next 3.5, 4 months, I spent it locked away with my boss, actually our founder, in his home. And a lot of the things he said in Suriname reminded of me. And we would have to, we had a team of about 10, volunteers that were all, 18 to 21, 18 to 22. So they were all pretty frightened sometimes, worried about their family, their parents, their grandparents. And we still had to get food to them. So it wasn't like in Dick's case, it's scary, but it's one person, right? Like we had to make sure we got food and water to all these people every day. Very difficult. And we would have to take a boat and actually drive upriver and stand on one specific spot, which was probably about a 10 by 10 meter square where we could get signal from our cell phones to send messages. We'd all go for 2 hours, and then we'd all get in the boat and go back, and that's it. Our connection to the rest of the world was over. And then it was weird because for us, it was like, well, okay, the world's burning down, but I guess we're going herping tonight. It was a weird dynamic. I guess in a lot of ways it was really good because we were isolated and safe from COVID. That's true. But also it was kind of scary, especially for people who really had, parents who were in like high risk categories. And, my best friend's father has lung issues, and he was at high risk if he got it, as he was nervous. And so it was tough. So, and the same thing in Peru was completely locked down. Like Dick said, you couldn't move when in the cities and the towns. It was one person per household once a week. And so a lot of what he said, I can definitely remember that.
Yeah, I relate more to what you were saying about I had my lung surgery and got COVID a month later after it. It was a horrible time.
That's so scary, Nick.
Completely opposite really. It's kind of it's interesting because you get so locked into what you're doing and what your experiences were. I was stuck in hospital for all that time, signed off work basically, at home doing absolutely nothing, whilst Dick was out in the jungle literally caring for these monkeys, and it's completely opposite life. It's really interesting to hear. That's why I love hearing these stories.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
No,
it was really cool.
Just a different perspective for sure.
It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, it was another good episode in the books, guys. I think we'll wrap it up now. And
definitely.
Many thanks to Dick for joining us. And Unlock Nature Tours is again the main organization. You can find them on the web, on the web, the World Wide Webs, as we say. And Dick's also on Instagram as well. For those kids who use it,
amazing.
You can find it there. Yeah. And so big thanks to Dick, and big thanks to Willow, our co-host this week. She's been great.
Pretty good.
If you're not able to make it like next week, Michaela or Nick, I think, or me, we can just replace the co-host with Willow. I
just have an hour live feed of Willow.
Yeah, we would probably get more views if this became a podcast co-hosted by a cat. I mean, let's be honest. That would probably jack our views way up.
Oh, absolutely.
We could have like people send in requests every week, but how much like treats to give her and like that.
Yeah. Oh, that's an
Donate
entire
to Willow.
You never know,
Donate
guys.
treats.
Might
There's
happen.
an entire thing for that. Oh my god.
It could, absolutely.
All right, I guess we'll wrap it up, and we'll see everyone next week.
See you soon.
All
Bye.
right. Bye, guys.